they never believe me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball, I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic gotta say, I got them picking up the pieces. That to me, you really playing with your life, I'm about to come and run it all back. I'm the new era, about to snap back. You ain't fitting for it, cause you all cap like. Hold up, I shoot my shot, wait, hold up. I'm really about to run this, go up. You know it's all net when it go up. Ain't got no other plans, you don't need to understand, ayy. We on overtime, you don't need to understand, ayy. You just show them how to do it when you don't know what to say. Tell me how you plan to win if you plan to play the same. Moving fast, already gone, but you bringing me back. Try to double cross me, dog, just let me relax. Stop assuming what we doing. Keep it moving, what we doing. Cause it can get big and right. Cause it can get big and right. Cause it can get big and right. Ay, please don't play no games with me, I promise I'm too much. Ay, I can never let up even if you had enough. Ay, this ain't for the faint of heart, we always playing rough. I had enough, it ain't luck. I needed a vision, I needed ambition, I needed a mission to beat this submission with no intermission. I see the collision, the crash in the distance, they coming off track, no. Now when they ask what's the motive, don't talk about the show, they all about to see what I mean in the moment. I gotta keep going, I'm shaking the dice and I'm keeping it rolling, they already know. Ain't got no other plans, you don't need to understand, ayy. We on overtime, you don't need to understand, ayy. You just show them how to do it when you don't know what to say. Tell me how you plan to win if you plan to play so. Moving fast, already gone, yeah, but you bringing me back. Try to double cross me, dog, just let me relax. Stop assuming what we doing. Keep it moving, what we doing. Cause it can get big and right. Cause it can get big and right. Cause it can get big and right.
All right. Salute. Good afternoon. ATP, what's good with you, man? One more game. Sending it back around. Hope everybody's doing well. Everybody's dialed in. You know what time it is. It's the Tuesday show, right? Today it looks like I'm gonna be running it solo. I'm gonna be doing it myself today, but hey, you know what it is. We keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? We got a lot of topics to cover, and I want to be able to get through these topics. So I'm sure you guys will help me along. Shout out to everybody in the building. I see JR Spock in the building, first one in the building here, says first, and starts it off with the conversation. Every day the alphabet belts lose credibility, and Zuffa gets stronger, booking more dates and signing more talent. Shout out to you, JR. Yeah, man, listen, the conversation continues to move forward on the back end of Jai Opetaia doing what he did this weekend. Shout out to Jai Opetaia. We're going to talk about all those things, man. We got to talk about Jai Opetaia. Rolly Romero hits the scene. He talks a little bit about this fight between him and Devin Haney. And, of course, Devin Haney shows up on Inside the Boxing. By the way, we got to talk about that as well. Devin Haney did such a great job on Inside the Boxing. I see this other lane opening up for him as he's working on becoming a little bit more spoken out, right? Outspoken a little bit, speaking for himself and showing how articulate he is, showing how intelligent he is, and his IQ doesn't just translate from what he does inside the ring, but also outside the ring. A very intelligent man. Some great points. We'll talk about that as well. Gervonta Tank Davis looks like he may be, looks like him and Isak Cruz. Looks like Ring Magazine basically states that he'll be doing something in the summertime. So we'll talk about that as well, because the space is buzzing about the potential huge return of Gervonta Tank Davis and what that means for the boxing space. People are split. Obviously, we know that Tank Davis has one of the biggest followings, right? To say in the boxing space may even be an understatement. But of course, you have the detractors, you have the fans, and you got the people who are right there in the middle. We'll talk about what that looks like for Gervonta Tank Davis this fight. News coming out that he may potentially be looking to do 2 or 3 more fights and potential opponents and what that may look like. Obviously, we know in the room, people want to see Tank versus Shakur Stevenson, and those, we know the fights that the space wants to see Tank in, but is that going to necessarily align with what Tank does? we'll talk about that as well. And, I'll let you know how I feel about the fights as well. On top of that, of course, we have to talk about Jai Opetaia, what he did. We got to talk about this IBF situation. From my understanding, Jai Opetaia may not be stripped right now at this moment with the IBF, as the IBF seems to still be deliberating on how they're going to approach this situation, how they're going to move forward with it. Is the IBF going to allow Jai Opetaia to hold his title still, or will they just, firmly put their feet down about how they feel about this? And then we can have another conversation. But we can talk about why they didn't sanction that fight. Why they didn't sanction his title defense against Brandon Glanton, and what rules they were referring to. And we'll pull up those regulations. Rule what is it? Rule 0.5 or whatever. We'll find it. Rule 5.h, whatever the rule is. I have it here somewhere, and we'll pull it up, and we'll go through the rule and see what it is and see what it translates like into the actual situation that happened with Jai Opetaia, and see if that matches. On a surface level, it just looks like it was an emotionally driven decision, right? That's what it looks like. But you know what it is. We're on the outside looking in. There's certain technical, intangible, parts, fine print inside of the regulations of these sanctioning bodies that usually lines up with them being well within their right to do whatever it is that they're doing when they're doing it, right? So we'll take it from there, right? We'll talk about all that. Then, of course, we'll talk also about Shakur Stevenson makes an appearance on Joe Rogan. A huge step for Shakur Stevenson, who's going into this season in his career to where he is transitioning into embracing the idea that he's a big star. To make it on the Joe Rogan show, get a 2-hour interview with Joe Rogan, or a conversation, however you want to look at it. Really, I would focus on it more like a conversation. But, listen, Shakur Stevenson exposing his brand to the world, and he as well needs to be celebrated because he's been so well-spoken as of late. He's been being more aware and conscious of what he's saying, but he did address some elephants in the room, right? One of them being what we may be looking forward to seeing him do in his next couple of fights, what his ambitions and goals are in the boxing space, and what we can embrace and expect from him. News also comes out about his stance as far as him and Gervonta Tank Davis fighting, and how he looks at his career, and how he looks at that potential fight. Is he still interested in that fight with Gervonta Tank Davis? And what that looks like. What does interest from Shakur Stevenson in a Gervonta Tank Davis fight look like? Shout out to everybody who's stepping into the building. I know we're moving in here slowly, but surely we're stepping in. Hit that like button while you step in. Subscribe to the channel. You already know how we carry it. We try to carry it as some professionals over here, right? We try to do our thing, man. Shout out to Flexing and stepping in the building. Says, what up, Clay? What up? What's good with you, man? Nostalgic? Okay, says, salute, Clay. Zuffa has everyone in panic. I can sense the nervous energy. 100%. Zuffa does have everybody. It does look like Zuffa has everybody nervous. I'll say that, right? Trying to be objective and say maybe everybody's not nervous, right? But it does look like Zuffa's nervous, to say the least, right? But there's definitely, and we're going to talk about all that. We got to talk about the sanctioning bodies. We got to talk about Zuffa boxing. That's what's trending right now in the space. That's what the biggest topic is right now. The first Zuffa title being worn by Jai Opetaia, the #1 cruiserweight in the world, the Ring Magazine champion. Jai Opetaia now has fought for a Zuffa title and has it now. And the world is shaking up about it, right? How do we look at this? Is the Zuffa belt a real belt? Why? We're going to dive all into that. I promise you. We're going to dive deep into that. Pause, right? I don't know. I don't even know if that needs a pause. I'm getting over the pause thing, by the way. This gray hair, my beard, all the things I got to get done, man. I like to laugh every now and then, but that pause shit gets diabolical. Lance Ma in the building says, I think J.R. Sparks is stalking me. JR, man, you stalking my guy. Let me see. Nostalgia says, watch the clip today that Stephen A talks about Zuffa. Yeah, I saw it, man. I definitely have it. Matter of fact, I might need to pull it up, right? I might pull that clip up and play it, man. It is what it is. I think what's, it's change can be scary, right? Change can be scary. And I say that to say that what's the price of change? What is that price? And what does it look like? And so many people, I remember just years ago, for years now, as long as I can remember, people have been complaining about the sanctioning bodies, the way they move themselves, who gets the title fights, the way the best never fight the best. The system lacks a merit base to it, and what that means for the future of boxing, even with the pay-per-view model and the way that I always talk to you guys, redlined, future casual fans from jumping into the sport, taking advantage of a small niche space of fans, right? Taking advantage of the hardcore fans, charging them $80 to watch it, but never ever truly investing in the future in the sport by providing free network TV boxing on a regular basis so that we can build the fan base up. And now we're watching boxing, at least on the American front, on the domestic side, fall off from the top where they used to be. So here comes Zuffa to answer the call. But people are nervous now and scared. And now, amazingly enough, those same fans who were talking about how corrupt the system was are now, the number one advocates for the sanctioning bodies right now. They're making the whole conversation about the legitimacy of belts. When we've watched years go by with the likes of Gervonta Tank Davis, Shakur Stevenson, Terrence Crawford, Keyshawn Davis, Errol Spence, you name them, your favorite fighters outside of the ones who have benefited the most, which is the top 1%, complaining about how these sanctioning fees, how these sanctioning bodies are working their titles, how the mandatories are being enforced, and just overall, you'll hear the biggest promoters in the game talk about the lawless nature of the sport that we're in, the wild, wild west. I quote from not just one, but many of pundits in the space, many of promoters, many of fighters calling the fighting game a wild, wild west scenario. And where does that leave a lion's share portion of these up-and-coming fighters who are trying to make a name for themselves and trying to earn themselves the accolades that the legends they saw before them, who motivated them and inspired them to be in the sport, achieved as well? But in comes Zuffa Boxing to go ahead and address the elephant in the room. They decide that they're going to start something from the ground up. And what does that look like when you're starting something from the ground up? And how is that translating as far as what the sanctioning bodies see, what the other promoters in the space see? And it looks like what it's translating into is some nervous energy. And people are becoming very reserved and very defensive and picking sides at the end of the day on which side they're going to go on with the conversation. So Sunday night, I think, marked a milestone, a milestone movement, maybe a climatic sort of energy in a change of guards to a certain degree. The first step forward, true step forward in moving the needle in the conversation as Zuffa Boxing went ahead and rolled out the first Zuffa inaugural title. Now, there are questions that even I ask as far as how is the sanctioning bodies looking at the title, as far as that whole question about trophy versus a sanctioned title, as the rules in the IBF's fine print talk about sanctioned fights and unifications and things of that nature and how they will approach those things. So we'll talk about all those things, right? Shout out to my guy, Literary Pharaoh in the building, man. Salute, salute, salute. Says, no, these sanctioning bodies do whatever they want, hence the proper label, Wild Wild West. 100%, man. Let me see. Warrior Class said, did the WBC sanctioning body ask Ryan Garcia to pay his sanctioning fees? I'm sure they did. I'm sure they did, man. Mine, yours in the building. Salute, salute, family. Salute. Yeah, and, all these sanctioning bodies are underneath the magnifying glass. And, the big guys on the stage right now, the number one guy who's been being scrutinized the most is the WBC with Mauricio Suleiman. But now the IBF has joined the party. Now we have to talk about their position and what are they really here for? We'll talk about all those things. We're actually going to start the conversation off talking about Rolly Romero and Devin Haney a little bit. This fight right here seems to be still in the process of being negotiated properly so that it can be finalized before an announcement can be made. Rolly Romero, a fighter who a lot of people, including myself, have always looked at with a side eye. A fighter who just seems, a lot of personality, to say the least. Even, it's weird how whatever it is, personality. But one of the biggest things Rolly Romero ever did that shook up the space was probably his approach to getting a fight with Gervonta Tank Davis, right? Him getting the WBA to force or put a actual mandatory on Gervonta Tank Davis and making Rolly Romero that mandatory. And that build up to that fight, those press conferences and that actual fight put Rolly Romero on the map, made him a legitimate contender. Arguably in that fight with Gervonta Tank Davis was winning that fight to some people's eyes until he lost it, until he got stopped. But we all know how Gervonta Tank Davis approaches the ring game. He goes for the knockout. He's looking for the stoppage. So he'll give up some rounds to process the data, to set up an opponent, to get them in that cadence, to walk them into a kill shot. And he doesn't care about what the judges think after the kill shot because it is what it is, right? And that's what ended up happening to Rolly Romero. But Rolly Romero is still somewhat of a mind, he still does something for the mind to really process who Rolly is. Because after the Gervonta Tank Davis fight, he really fell off, right? Rolly really fell off for all argument's sake. We remember old man Barroso, he ended up getting that crazy stoppage. That just looked, it borderline gave you corrupt energy with just how the fight was stopped, as Barroso never really looked that hurt, number one, and number two was clearly winning the fight. But he ended up getting some sort of an interim WBA title in that type of situation. He went to defend that title against Isak Pitbull Cruz with these weird hiatuses in between the fights, being moved very strategically, and gets dominated by Isak Pitbull Cruz, right? I mean, I think there might have been a fight in between there or right after. Don't quote me. But bottom line is Isak Pitbull Cruz pieced him up, came up from 135 pounds and devastated him, embarrassed him in front of the world at 140 pounds. What was Rolly going to do then? Then a weird hiatus after that. He fought a little bit of a tune-up fight, didn't get the stoppage, but got a victory, a very contested victory against an opponent that we saw Abdullah Mason stop inside of 4 rounds, I think, in his fight, in the next fight against him. Just always didn't rate Rolly that way. Just didn't see Rolly Romero as that kind of a fighter. He gets repositioned again, gets an opportunity to fight Ryan Garcia on that card that we saw happen in New York, a very lackluster card. But Rolly Romero was able to beat Ryan Garcia, outbox Ryan Garcia. And I think that also shook up the space, but also brought to the light that, okay, is Rolly Romero was it a weight issue? Was it a weight cut issue? Was it him being at 147 pounds? Was that what the issue was with Rolly Romero, being that he put on that performance with Ryan Garcia? Now, do with that as you see fit, because at the end of the day, we know Ryan Garcia talked about hand injuries in that fight, lack of motivation. He himself was coming off of a year-plus hiatus or suspension because of the fight he had with Devin Haney and how that ended up as far as with the dirty test. It is what it is, right? Another interesting move by the sanctioning bodies, putting that fight between Rolly Romero and Ryan Garcia as a WBA interim title, which was perfect timing as we were watching Jaron Boots Ennis just unify the title. And obviously we all were expecting him to move forward to 154. It was just a matter of time. We were watching Jaron Ennis do some serious weight cuts, and we all had our questions about how long he'd be at 147. So naturally, whoever the interim title holder is, and I say take this with a grain of salt, because normally these champions seem to be elevated when these belts are vacated, but we've seen it at times when that hasn't happened, right? Like we just watched that with Hadir Herrera. We watched that happen with Bruce Shushu Carrington, who's an interim title, when Stephen Fulton was stripped or vacated his 126-pound belt. Shushu still had to fight, right, for that title against Carlos Castro. And then we watching Hadir Herrera right now literally be stepped over as an interim title holder. And so we're watching William Zepeda get another opportunity coming off of a loss against Shakur Stevenson, challenging for that WBC title. And Lamont Roach, who's been moving in between weight classes, doing whatever he feels like doing, they're fighting for the vacated WBC title or stripped WBC title, as the WBC has taken that title off of Shakur Stevenson. And that sounds complicated, I'm sure, right? And I don't want to word salad this whole thing, but there's obviously a lot of moving parts of what happens in the boxing space. Ultimately, at the end of the day, when it comes to Rolly Romero, he's been elevated to the WBA champion. Now, we saw the introduction of Devin Haney into the welterweight division conversation as he challenged the #1 the HNIC, the number one guy in the welterweight division, in Brian Norman Jr., who is coming off of a devastating knockout win, knockout of the year candidate against Jin Sasaki. He dominates Brian Norman Jr., becomes the WBO champion, and also recognized as the number one ranked welterweight fighter in the division as a champion. Naturally, we want to see Devin Haney do great things. We know that he's a unification type of guy. He's always looking to up the accolades, up the legacy. So naturally, anybody holding a belt in that division was going to become somebody who Devin Haney was going to be interested in fighting in. And if you guys recall, Devin Haney and Bill Haney were calling out, well, Bill Haney specifically, right, who represents Devin Haney's best interest, was calling out the likes of a Rolly Romero to make a fight happen. And Rolly expressed he had no interest in making that fight, right? That's what he said. He had no interest in making the fight. But lo and behold, Rolly Romero's had a change of heart as time has gone by. Rumors were circulating about potential fights with him and Manny Pacquiao, him and Conor Benn, right? And of course, there was always an elephant in the room. If you follow the sport like I do, the elephant in the room was always Shakram Giasov and Eddie Hearn, right? Let's just be honest, right? Shakram Giasov has always been the elephant in the room when it comes to the conversation of that welterweight WBA title. As Rolly Romero and his team never acknowledged Shakram, act like he didn't exist, and always there were conversations about these other fights happening. But what was Shakram Giasov's position going to be on this one, and Eddie Hearn? Were they going to take step-aside money, as rumor has it they were doing constantly, because they were always a mandatory for some championship? Shakram Giasov has been on the borderline of getting a championship fight for a little while now, or maybe, I would say multiple, maybe two years, year and a half. I don't know how long it's been, but what was Eddie Hearn's position going to be? And I think Eddie Hearn communicated in different ways that, no, that fight was a fight that they wanted to happen. They wanted that fight to happen. And the rule is supposedly the rule of thumb, or I don't even know if this is an actual real rule, but from my understanding, watching boxing as long as I've been watching it, unifications always trumped mandatories, right? So here, Rolly Romero is in a situation to where he's turning his nose up at Devin Haney, who's clearly wanting to do a unification fight. There's money there, obviously, just being who Devin Haney is, but Rolly's being very confident in the fact that he believes his team, his handlers, are confidently telling him, listen, we're going to secure a fight with a lot more money on the line and a lot less risk when you're fighting a Devin Haney. We've got Manny Pacquiao, who's just coming off of a great draw, which a lot of people looked at as a victory. People thought Manny beat Mario Barrios coming off that fight, and Manny brings in that crazy fan base and money potentially for Rolly Romero and the PBC, right? Money for both of these guys, probably mainly the PBC if you know like I know. Or we can go ahead and see if we can make this fight happen with Conor Benn, who's coming off of their 2 fight of the year candidate fights, with Chris Eubank coming off of a victory, went up in weight. He has a whole entire country behind him. Both of his fights were 60,000+ people in the building. I mean, we know how the UK supports their fighters, and Conor Benn seems to have a lot of buzz behind him at that time. And even on a worst case scenario, let's see what Ryan Garcia does. He's supposed to be rematching you. You beat him already. He's got a fight lined up as well, trying to make something happen. Rumors are circulating at the time that Ryan Garcia might be fighting Mario Barrios. Keep in mind, I'm going through a time thing with you guys right now because we know how that ended up, as Ryan Garcia is the current WBC champion. But at that time, rumors circulating, right, about that fight potentially happening. So if Ryan picks up a belt, well, then there's a unification right there for Rolly Romero. And he gets out of this whole, he doesn't have to worry about this whole entire mandatory conversation. He doesn't have to worry about it. But time is ticking as the WBA is applying pressure and saying, it's about that time. If you're not going to let us know what's really going on in real time, we're going to activate this purse bid. Once that happened, there's no going back. You're either going to vacate that title or defend that title against a Shakram Giasov, who, if you guys don't know who he is, brings a lot of risk, to say the least. but definitely doesn't bring that much reward. So here Rolly is in a very complicated situation to where he's getting ready to have to make a hard decision. And I don't know, and I'm sure this has nothing to do with him recalibrating his thoughts, re-auditing his position on whether or not Devin Haney would be a fight that he'd be interested or not, right? Or whether or not the PBC would be interested in it, because let's be honest with you, Rolly Romero is not moving the needle in the conversation of his own career. He's waiting on instructions from his handlers and the powers that be, whoever that is in that PBC or in Tom Brown's, in the Tom Brown situation, whatever it is, it ain't Rolly, because you ask Rolly 9 out of 10 times what's going on in his career, he has no comment, right? He doesn't even know what's going on. He's waiting on the phone call. So in comes Devin Haney, who at the same exact time, guys, we can be honest and say Devin seemed like he was kind of limited on his options as well, as a lot of the fights he was pursuing, he couldn't get it. We can be honest about that, right? We can be honest about that. But lo and behold, a good friend of mine, my brother in arms, Blue Blood Sports TV, always says things are always, what does he say? Things are always subject to change in the sport of boxing as we deal with this roller coaster journey with Devin Haney, who was the money, then wasn't the money, and now seems to be the money again for some fighters in the space. One of them being Rolly Romero, and other conversations have opened up for Devin Haney as well. But that being said, let's take a moment here and let's see what Rolly has to say real quick, right? I'm trying to get better with these clips, so bear with me here. Let's see what Rolly's position is on this conversation, where he's at right now on it, right? So Rolly Romero,
Bill Haney on The Last Stand just last week. Bill Haney said, I've been talking to Rolly Romero. I talked to his manager, Louis DeCubas. He says, we have an agreement to fight May 30th, whether it be New York, whether it be Vegas. But he says, Rolly Romero can't back out of this one because, in his words, Debo is coming to town. Is that true?
But the contract was sent to them two days ago, and Bill kind of disappeared, went and grabbed milk. So you, I mean, let's just say it like this, right? I don't really want to talk about Devin or any of that stuff because, like I said, the fight's not made. What is it to talk about? Like I said, nobody's ducking or dodging Devin Haney. Nobody cares about Devin Haney.
Now, I'm not going to even go that much deeper into that video, right? There's other points of conversation in there. I mean, this was a weird interview, to say the least. It was awkward in its own way, right? But what did I pull away mainly from this, and what did I care about mostly? What I saw was that Rolly Romero, does not have a full confirmation from Devin Haney as to whether or not that fight is going to happen. Devin has not signed the contract. We don't know why he hasn't signed it yet. But also, if you look on Rolly Romero's face, you're seeing a lot of frustration. You're seeing a lot of tension, a lot of anxiety, and he's a little short. He's a little short. Looks like he's, trying to hold back his temper and his emotions a little bit about what's going on. But what's going on right now with Rolly? Well, if you ask me, I'll be honest with you. I won't even beat around the bush. I think what we're seeing is a Rolly Romero who's dealing with the pressures of time. And time, as a wise man once said, waits for no man. But when you're dealing with a guy like Devin Haney, who seems like he has nothing but time in front of him, a Rolly Romero fight is definitely a legitimate option for Devin Haney. But clearly, Devin Haney, if you've been keeping up with what's going on in his space, his options have opened up quite a bit since the last time we talked about Devin Haney, right? Since the last time we talked about Devin Haney, just to put it in perspective, we were watching Bill Haney go on a media campaign, to fight Xander Zayas, to make a fight happen with Lewis Crocker. There were even conversations of him pulling up a Keyshawn Davis from 140 pounds to fight him. And those options were always on the table for him. And obviously the Ryan Garcia conversation also jumped on the table, as Ryan Garcia seemed to be a little bit more open, responding to the demand that the fan base was putting out there to see them fight. And that still is the biggest fight damn near that could be made in boxing today, right? Damn near the biggest fight that could be made, arguably the biggest fight. I mean, I'm not going to dive that deep into it because maybe there's some some good contenders out there for the biggest fight, but without a doubt, like a Virgil Ortiz and a John Boots Ennis or something like that. But this fight right here, definitely one of the biggest fights, to say the least. And that may be an understatement, because it may literally be the biggest fight that could be made. That being said, Rolly Romero has to be patient, but can he afford to be patient as he's sitting by trying to have faith in the powers that be to move his career in the right way, to move that needle, move the conversation in the right direction that gets him a fight that's going to get him a big payday, right? A big payday, a significant fight. Now, Rolly went ahead in that video and talked about his position on the Manny Pacquiao negotiations. He's upset with the world. If you watch the interview, I forced myself to watch the interview because I know I had to do this show. I had to literally force. I didn't even finish the video yet, to be honest with you. I think I still got like at least a quarter left of that video to watch. It's very difficult to watch Rolly sometimes. It can be very cringe. But he's mad at Manny Pacquiao, he's mad at Conor Benn, he's mad at Ryan Garcia, he's annoyed with Devin Haney. He's across the board just not a happy guy. Because the reality is all roads seem to be leading to Shakur Giasov if he doesn't figure something out quickly, as he's been waiting for multiple days for Devin Haney to respond. Now, right now, at this current present moment, Devin Haney may have legitimately signed the contract, and we may be hearing an announcement later this evening, later this week. We can anticipate anything. But in that particular interview, Rolly Romero doesn't seem to be happy. We'll see how that ends up turning out, and see what ends up happening with that, right? I mean, I don't know what else much more to say about that as far as Rolly Romero is concerned. It is what it is. You get what you get when you're dealing with Rolly Romero. That being said, on other news as well, shout out to my guy Ray Davis in the building, showing love. Ray's in the building. Wallan. Wallan. Oh, here we go. Let's do this right then. You know what I'm saying? Let's bring my guy in the building here. Ray M. Effin Davis in the building, man.
All right. Well, I've been here for a minute. Into your phenomenal breakdown of Rolly Romero, whatever his name is, because he's just confusing. I'm confused. I know I got him. Rollies, yeah. Raleigh, as Max was calling him, but that's just crazy, right? In another sense.
All right.
Listen, man, great breakdown of everything that you just took place on, man. This is it's a lot to take away from this situation, and like I said, I just want to paint a title for this, right? It's almost like dancing with wolves, right? Rolly's in a situation where he's dancing with wolves. He has few options, but he has to pick one. You know what I mean? Like all his options are threats. They're all wolves. They're all guys that are hungry and willing to attack, right? Basically, my enemy's enemy needs to fight my enemy, but I need to fight my enemy. You know what I mean? Like he has no corner to back into. He's in the middle of the room surrounded by wolves, man, and that's what it is. So he's dancing with the wolves in this situation. And it's hard because, like you said, time. That's what makes it that's the key factor here, right? The whole situation is the time that has to take place in this, man, because it's crazy that he looks I don't know. I really don't even know what to say about that interview. As you said, you got through a quarter. I watched the whole thing, so imagine how my ears and eyes felt. But anyway, that's
difficult at times. Rolly's has always been an interesting personality in the boxing space. Very interesting personality, and sometimes some moments are more cringe than others. And this interview was definitely a more cringe one than normal. He was very disenchanted. He was very upset, annoyed. When you watch this interview, you start to think about mental health. You start to think about he started to relate to Gervonta Tank Davis in so many ways. And shout out to Rolly, who's speaking on having a better relationship with God and how that's manifesting in his life. But unfortunately, and I say that with a heavy heart to say that, unfortunately, when you start to see fighters talking like this, it's usually not a good sign of what's to come down the road, because boxing takes a certain kind of focus and a certain type of energy and a certain type of perspective for you to have on the sport to be able to compete at the highest level. So if you're not finding any motivation, if somebody says, who do you want to fight next? And you go, I don't really care. There's nobody I really want to fight next. I just want to be one with God. And that sounds very similar to Tank Davis earlier in the year, or towards the end of last year, actually, middle to the end of last year, talking about his disenchantment with making the biggest fights and what he really wants to do, and him wanting to actually go and retire and get therapy and have a better relationship with his daughter, and all these things which are honorable points to stand on, but unfortunately, historically speaking, doesn't add up into a fighter who's given the signs of wanting to be here. And once it becomes, I have to be here, and I'm just doing this because
right,
everything else except for my goals and ambition as a fighter to be a champion, it can get choppy, especially at the highest level, because now you're dealing with the best of the best, the cream of the crop. You're dealing with the Devin Haney's, you're dealing with the Ryan Garcias, you're dealing with who knows what other fights can be on the table, the Conor Benns, even, what I mean? It can get dangerous for a fighter who's walking around with that mentality. So
I agree.
we'll see we'll see what the outcome's going to end up being with Rolly Romero, because ultimately he's at a crossroads. It's either going to be this Devin Haney fight for a unification, and I don't see any other options for him as far as money is concerned, or he's going to be forced into a situation to where he's going to have to either vacate the WBA title or defend it against Shakur Giyasov. And I think a lot of people that I know, including you, I think, are favoring Shakur to win that fight.
Yeah, sure. It's because he doesn't know him. And that just shows you too about boxing, just as much as the fans. We don't know people overseas, man. And those are dangerous fights. Yeah, you can go prepare for them, but you never really watch this guy like thoroughly and really dived into what his attributes are and his weaknesses and stuff like that. Now you're trying to figure it out all in a matter of time, short time, as you would say, right? And now you're trying to go in the ring with this guy who maybe have been watching you for quite some time, and you got the belt, and you're in his way, and he knows your weaknesses. He's already prepared. He's hungry. You don't show the desire of that, so that just makes a dangerous fight, right? So a risk, like I think Showbiz or somebody said it. Shout out to whoever did. Fighting Giyasov is just it's a no-win situation, man. Like, you beat him for what? Chips. You lose to him for chips and your title. But then if you fight Devin, you're getting the bag. You fight Devin, you're getting, you win, lose, or draw, you're going to win on the other end of the financial side. So it makes more sense to go that direction. But as you said, Rolly said that Devin didn't send something back or didn't sign something. I don't know what's going on there, because I'm hearing, obviously you heard the same thing I have, conflicting. Yeah, we sent the paperwork back. Now, I don't know if there was a full contract sent after that, and maybe there's some stipulations they're working out or whatever. I don't know. I don't care. I know.
I think leverage Ray makes a big difference in these situations. And yesterday's price isn't today's price, and the things that move me is going to be the things that benefit me, right? The things that make sense to me. And I think when you're looking at Devin Haney, you're looking at somebody who's clearly weighing options. He's waiting on things the same way Rolly is. The only difference is Devin has time on his side. He's not really pressed as much as Rolly seems to be. Rolly has a deadline. I think the WBA in the next week or two, I think it's literally that far away before they activated purse bid between him and Shakur. So he's definitely feeling that pressure. And shout out, I think literary Pharaoh said something about it's not that, it's boxing. Hold on, things. Here it is right here. He says, I don't think Rolly was confusing, right? Boxing is confusing. And when we get a person who we perceive a clown speak sense, that categorizes it as confusion. I mean,
to a degree,
it is to a degree, but it is confusing as far as, I agree with you, literary Fat, right? Like, I don't think it's confusing as much as people would want to make it confusing, because for me, it's kind of simple, which is Rolly's been sitting around thinking things are getting worked on for him, and he's come to find out it ain't nothing but a big nothing burger. That Manny Pacquiao was never solidified. That Conor Benn was never solidified. That the Ryan Garcia situation was never solidified. And that this Shakur Giyasov fight that he was made to believe was something that he shouldn't even worry about has become the most threatening, the biggest nasty stain in the middle of the room. Like, this Giyasov thing isn't going away. None of these fighters have signed these contracts. He was led to believe all of these opportunities were there on the table, and it was all with hindsight make believe.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, you're dealing with a fighter who's clearly showing a lot of frustration with the boxing space is for him, which is confusion, because this is the other side, right, Ray, of the Wild Wild West theory. This is the other side of it, right? Like, because one side of it is, oh, these fighters get to negotiate a lot of money and they get all this bread and they can leverage their brand. But the other side of it is fighters like Rolly Romero don't know where they stand at any given time because it's the Wild Wild West. So Rolly doesn't know if he should be training, how he should be training, who he should be training for, what kind of money should he be anticipating. He doesn't know what's going on as he's trying to process all of this information. Shout out to my guy, attorney Bailey in the building. Shout out my guy, man. Says Claymore, I think Rolly is very reasonable and rational. I believe you may be interpreting his lack of drama and a lack of motivation. No, I understand that. I think he was being rational, but I think without a doubt, I think he was being rational. I don't think he was being. I'm not the type of person who's going to look at that.
Yeah, it didn't sound crazy.
Yeah, that's not what I was saying.
Sound crazy. He just avoid. He sounded like he didn't want to be like he's uncomfortable. His whole situation is uncomfortable. Situation, not him.
I mean, a little bit uncomfortable, but more so, I think what was more blatantly there in the middle of that room was he was frustrated. Right. There was definitely frustration there, and the question is, where is the frustration rooted? Is it rooted in what? Is it Devin Haney talking too much trash? Is it no? The frustration is I'm a fighter, and my job is to fight. And when I'm not fighting, people want to put the blame on me and say the reason I'm not fighting is because of me. And he's in a very awkward situation to where he probably is well within his right to point fingers as to why he's not fighting, right? And probably well within his right to point fingers, not to Devin, not to the fighters he's pointing fingers at, but maybe pointing fingers at the people who are in charge of keeping him active and getting him these fights and coordinating these fights. So he's trying to bite his tongue. He doesn't want to speak too much because he doesn't want to throw the wrong people under the bus. But mainly what I saw is a fighter who wants to fight and is tired of what he may perceive at this point in the game as games being played with his career. And I think that's what you're seeing translating in that interview. You know what I mean? And that's all it is from Rolly's point of view, but he is in between a rock and a hard place. If the payday is important, if the unification is important, and Devin Haney is not responding by signing that contract and sending it right back over, that could translate into a lot of anxiety, man. Let me see. Attorney Bailey says Rolly has been humbled by Pitbull and has to come back focused. That is why Rolly beat Ryan. Yeah, I mean, a combination of all that, right? Shout out to my guy Sam from Jersey with the support, man. Rolly was signed to Zuffa, would he have to go through any wait for legacy money fight? Shout out to Sam from Jersey, man. No, he wouldn't, right? But that's maybe I'm saying that too simple because a lot of people, I have the Zuffa jacket on me, even though I don't own a Zuffa jacket yet, but the jacket is that I'm sitting here representing Zuffa. It's not about Zuffa, right? But fine. Sam brings up Zuffa, and I think that's significant because at the end of the day, what Zuffa is here on the back end of is fighting against the quote-unquote narrative of the Wild Wild West, bringing the structure, bringing the legacy, bringing that to the sport and turning it into a league to where fighters don't have to be confused about what they're doing next. Because I can tell you right now, Julian Rodriguez knows he has a fight coming up. Even if he doesn't know the opponent yet, he's not worried about that. He's training because he knows he has to get ready because he's probably going to be in the ring in May, June, something like that, right? Robert Merriweather is training confidently in the gym, getting ready for a fight. He has April 5th. He has a fight coming up. You know what I'm saying? All those fighters fighting underneath that belt, what they're not worried about is when are they fighting next? Whereas the Wild Wild West theory, like I said, has its pros and its cons. You know what I mean? It is what it is. They have to look at what it is. Warrior Class in the building says, what's next if Roach wins the vacant 135 belt? If Roach wins that 135 vacant belt, which I think is also a shot at the sanctioning bodies. I don't understand how they're just looking over Hadir Herrera. I think that's crazy to me that this man just won an interim title. The title's been vacated. I think there's an argument there to say that he should be elevated.
Correct.
But
Or
at a
fighting
minimum, involved in the fight for the belt. He should be, you know what I mean? I don't understand how Williams Zepeda is coming off of a loss when he went for the belt and now going right back into another title shot. I mean, talk about force feeding a narrative. Talk
And
about, you know what I'm
the
saying?
crazy part about that, Clay, is that we just heard Mauricio Sulaiman explain why the interim place is there.
Right.
Did we not hear him say the interim place champion is put there just in case there's a vacancy of some sort, the fighter moves up, has to relinquish the title, go on recess, whatever the case may be. We can elevate the champion to that position to hold on to the title so we don't have to go put on these type of fights.
Right.
Literally is what he said. And now what does he do? Another lie.
Right. Lamont Roach, who the only thing he has at 135 is a draw with Gervonta Tank Davis. He hasn't been competing at 135. He went up to his last fight was at 140, where he had a draw again for an interim WBC title. And now you put him back in position, which I'm okay with it, right? He had a draw for a WBC title at 140. Maybe that's Mauricio. I have no problem with that, but why Williams Zepeda? Why not make it Javier Herrera versus Lamont Roach? Make it for a full title, the same way Shushu fought against Carlos Castro, and make that happen. That would make more sense. But that being said, going back to the question that my guy Warrior Class asked here, what's next for Lamont? I don't know. After a victory, you got to think that the division is wide open. There's a lot of young champions in that division. You got Abdullah Mason. We got to see what Floyd Schofield Jr. situation looks like with the WBA. Javier Herrera is right there with an interim title. Maybe he becomes a mandatory to Lamont Roach, right? Bottom line is I'm very happy for Lamont Roach, who I believe deserves an opportunity. I think he's been moved around in a weird, messed up way. Hold on a second here. Moved around in a weird, messed up way. So, but the bottom line is Lamont Roach as a champion at 135 gets the wheels turning for Lamont Roach. I think that's a great look for him. If he wins that title, then boom. Now he's in unifications. He's in all these other points of conversation, which I'm happy for him, man. So let's never cross the line between the accountability we're holding for the WBC with how happy we are for Lamont Roach, right? Getting his opportunity, because it's a good thing for him.
I'm with you. I'm excited for it. I'm even excited for Zepeda to get another opportunity. I know it's not at this point because he's coming off a loss of that same opportunity. But the fact is, he was a fighting thoroughbred, bro. He fought through, he was number 1 in 4 sanctioning bodies. The guy's proven to be at the top, which is okay. But like you said, you have an interim champion there. You have a guy who deserves it because he's been given the wrong side of seen the wrong side of these decisions, even though they were draws. Like, this guy has his opportunity and it's worth for him to do it, right? So I'm good for it. But at the same time, what happens next? Well, he's not fighting Gervonta because Gervonta Davis is not interested in the WBC title.
And he's at 140. That's it. We're going to talk about that in a minute. We're actually going to.
Oh, yeah, we do.
We're actually going to get into that conversation. But yeah, bro. Like
he's not even interested in WBC at all.
No doubt. 100%. But let's move the needle. That being said, right? Let's move the needle. Let me see if I can find it here. If I got let me see here. So let's go into this here. Bear with me here.
I think I know what it is.
Hold on. While I'm trying to get a hang of this, guys. Be patient with me, man. Hold on, man. Boom. So let's go ahead with this one right here, right? Gervonta Tank Davis wants to grant a rematch with another rival this year after his majority draw with Lamont Roach. Advanced negotiations are ongoing for Davis to fight Isak Cruz again sometime this summer. The Baltimore Davis is 30-0, 1 draw, 28 knockouts, defeated Cruz, 28 wins, 3 losses, 2 draws, 18 knockouts by unanimous decision in December in Los Angeles, 2021. Now, a Davis-Cruz rematch would be contested as a junior welterweight limit of 140 pounds. Very important. And once again, not fighting at 135. Their first meeting was a lightweight title for Davis's WBA title. Davis's fight with Cruz was considered the most competitive contest of his career until Roach nearly upset him in March in Brooklyn. So, I mean, that's good enough. I'm not going to get that deep into it, right? At the end of the day, more importantly, Gervonta Tank Davis in a situation right now where he's talking about returning into the sport. How do you feel about this, Ray, at this point? Just, as far as Isak, as far as his return is concerned, where are you at on that?
Listen, man, I am very disappointed. And
Wow.
I'll tell you why. This guy's been he sent the contract to Lamont Roach. He then pulled out of that negotiations to go fight Jake Paul. Still sitting on the back end. You had this guy waiting. This guy's frustrated. This guy then took on the opponent that you're fighting because you kept him waiting, so he had no other option but to go up to 140. He goes up there, he puts on a good performance, to say the least. It might have been subpar to some people, but I thought he did a really good job. But then he still wants this fight. He wants this rematch with you, but it seems like we're playing move around Roach, basically. You know what I mean? Like you would rather move a different direction. So you want to go fight the guy, and you actually even put it out there that same night, which is crazy. You actually put it out. Yeah, looks like the rematch with Pitbull is about to happen. And
Right.
everybody in the world is shocked, bro. You're not fighting Shakur. You're not fighting Roach. You're not fighting this guy. You're not fighting that. And I hate to say it, and I'm just going to tap into on this because I know we'll probably go there later, maybe not. But what Devin Haney said was 100% right. Bro, he's not pushing himself to make these big fights. He is only selecting the fights that he seems to know that he can win or it could be subpar challenges. He's moving the needle the way he wants. He's entertaining his fans, and that's all he's doing. He's not showing to be the grace of the champion that he wants. And I don't like this fight, man. I don't like this at all. And I think this is the one that can also sneak up and bite him in the ass. I hate to say it because we've seen it happen with Lamont Roach. You can't keep going around thinking that you're going to get these easy victories or these fights that you have a chance to win to avoid certain things. And I'm not saying he's terribly avoiding them, but he's definitely not. He's showing to me, and I'm going to keep it real, looks like he's avoiding them. To go entertain your payroll instead of giving the fans what they want. The fans just want to see you be the best, bro. We believe in you, but you're not giving us that. And when you take fights like this, man, it's just disappointing, and to say the least.
Yeah. With Tank, I've gotten, I have my relationship with Tank Davis at this point, as far as I'm concerned, which is I understand who he is and I know how he's thinking and how he's moving, and I'm no longer surprised or more importantly even upset with the way he moves, right? But Devin Haney did make Devin Haney did make it an important observation, and I thought it was fair, and I don't think there was any bad ideas behind it. But Devin Haney said something that was very fair, right? So let's look and see what Devin Haney says, right? So Devin Haney goes on.
Gervonta Davis, I think that he's a really good fighter. I think that he's an underachiever. I think that he has so much talent. I think that his outside issues is stopping him from reaching his full potential, and him just not wanting to test himself against the best fighters in the world. There's a guy like Pitbull Cruz it's just a fight that no one asked for.
Damn.
Now listen, people are going to take that statement and they're not going to like it. I see a lot of content creators in the space are making that their headlines tonight, this underachiever conversation. So I'm gonna speak on it, right? The underachiever thing. Without a doubt, Tank Davis has built as far as his journey in boxing is concerned, he built himself, or he was helped. Obviously, he didn't do it by himself, but built himself to be a big superstar. You want to see Gervonta Tank Davis fight. I'll go on record to say that I think this fight with him and Isaac Cruz stylistically is going to be a great fight to watch. It's going to be a great, entertaining fight. And that's okay. I'm okay with that fight. I'm okay with Tank Davis moving the way he wants to move with his career. But I think at the same exact time, what comes with that is whatever comes with that. In other words, there are clearly fights that the boxing space has been pushing Tank to be in. They want to see him in these fights because there are fights that boxing has asked Tank for. Tank has made it clear he's not here to give boxing that. He's here to give boxing what he's willing to give boxing, and boxing should be grateful and happy with that. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with Tank feeling that way. There's not too much that I'm not okay with, except for if you have a problem with me not giving you the same accolades, I'm going to give a Shakur Stevenson, a Devin Haney, who are looking to fight the best, who are trying to make the biggest fights happen. When given opportunities, Shakur made the fight happen with Tiafimo. When given an opportunity, Devin Haney made the fight happen with Ryan Garcia. He made the fight happen with Brian Norman Jr. Here he is looking to make a fight with Rolly Romero. We're probably in the future going to see him fight potentially a Xander Zayas for unification, or even fight a Jerron Boots. And at some point in his career, we can all be optimistic and believe that that's what he's going to do because of his track record. Gervonta Tank Davis has been a fighter who is an underachiever. He is, because he has the opportunity to do things that would do so much, that would drive so much conversation as far as legacy is concerned for him. And he's openly communicated and chosen out of his own free will not to do those things. So yes, he's an underachiever. Now his fans are going to push back at that, and they want this to be something else, some other narrative. You never give him his credit. You guys as well are allowed to feel the way you feel. But the conversation is still, the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Everybody has their opinion on it. Without a doubt, a lion's share of the boxing community has held this man accountable for not doing that. And that is what it is. And I think people just have to get comfortable and understand that that's the way it's going to be. Gervonta, more importantly, seems to be very comfortable with that. He is okay with this space criticizing and scrutinizing his position in boxing, but his fans have a hard time dealing with it. Their mission is to change everybody's mind, is to argue, debate, throw mud, and do everything under the sun to land on the point of what he's done is enough. And clearly, what's most important is that what he's done is enough for you guys. And that's great. That's what's up. But other people aren't. And that's also should be okay. It shouldn't be a huge problem with the arguments and the back and forth and all the debates and everything like that. It should just be how you feel. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be how you feel versus how I feel. I don't think that conversation is that deep. There's so much going on in boxing. As far as Gervonta Tank Davis fighting Lamont Roach next, salute. I'll be watching it. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be watching. I think it's going to be a great fight. But what Devin Haney also said is true. It's not going to be a fight we asked for.
I mean, everything you said is 100%. And I can't even repeat what you said because I believe in it firmly, right? When we take a dive into what he's really saying is, and this is me and and what I kind of took from this is that this guy's never fought a pound for pound fighter. He's never fought another champion. He's never fought an elite fighter. He fought one mandatory throughout his whole career of being a champion. The guy's been moved certain ways, right? The only time he wanted to fight somebody that was an elite opponent was on the back end of Devin Haney fighting Lomachenko. And the guy's about to retire. So literally you waited till that guy's career was over. So where has the eliteness or where has the super fights been for him? Don't get it wrong. He's fought some champions. He's fought some guys, but he hasn't fought those guys. Leo Santa Cruz was a champion at a lower division that he went down for. Mario Barrios was a secondary champion. Rolly Romero wasn't even he was an interim title holder because Tank was a secondary champion. So he never fought nobody that was, to say the least, a star besides Ryan Garcia. And he was just a star due to the fan base. And that guy brought the fans to the fight, regardless of what people say. Yes, Tank brought a certain demographic, but the other demographic and the other people that came to watch that fight and the people that paid for the pay-per-views, I promise you, were Ryan Garcia fans. So what has he done? What has he showed us that he deserves to be an overachiever, to say the least, right? And I get it. I know people think that it's all a hate game or we're trying to stomp on Tank's name. No, this is the facts, man. Devin spoke to this truthfully. He's as honest as anybody can be. And as far as Shakur not mentioning his name anymore should say a lot. I mean, the fact that Devin went up 2 divisions and left him behind should say a lot. We're not wasting our time here anymore waiting for you, bro. We got other things we can accomplish, and we can move our careers on, and we can show the talents, as you just mentioned, Clay, that we can fight other people that are superstars as well and prove ourselves. You need to get on that train and start doing the same thing. But you're rematching Pitbull Cruz. Great fight, but not the fight we want.
Yeah, not the fight we want, man. I mean, and like I said, I've gotten a certain relationship and understanding with Gervonta Tank Davis where I'm there's so much going on in boxing. I genuinely don't care that much about one guy's choices. I'm okay. If you're cornering me and asking me to compare him to his peers and accomplishments and things of that nature, you're going to get a truthful response to me on that question. Gervonta Tank Davis doesn't care about those things. He's trying to get money, and he's going to do that with this fight. I'm hearing some honestly, I'm very optimistic about the next fights I'm hearing that he may be getting ready to do. It's not going to be fights that people have asked for. Again, I'm telling you right now, except for I'm hearing the Lamont Roach fight is a fight that he's probably going to do at some point. But he has another opponent that is in the conversation that I think he put a statement about Gary Antoine Russell being a potential opponent at 140 he'd fight. I think that's going to be a great fight. And I'm looking forward to what Tank is going to do, not what he hasn't done. You know what I'm saying? I'm not looking forward to what he hasn't done. I'm going to look forward to what he's going to do and move forward.
I hope that's true, man.
Yeah, he'll do what he does, man, and we'll see it unfold when he feels like rolling it out. And I have plenty of other fighters who are chasing legacy, who are chasing unification, who are chasing to be Ring Magazine champions, who are looking to fight the best. I got Xander Zayas, I got Shushu Carrington, I got Shakur Stevenson, I got Abdullah Mason, I've got David Benavidez. I can go down this list forever, bro. I don't need Tank. The same way Shakur says, I don't need Tank to do shit that he don't want to do. It's okay. But once again, don't corner me and ask me questions about this man being in certain conversations and what I think about it. You may not be happy with those answers. I'm going to be transparent and give you those answers in a real way. I'm sorry. I'm not going to sit here and play that game. And I mean, I'm getting to the point where, depending on who you are, I probably won't even answer the question.
And we're fans, to say the least, right? It's not like we're not fans. That's the crazy part.
No, it's all good, right? But people who can't accept that
the truth
or respect that probably won't get, because I know who you guys are by now, right? And you guys know who I am by now. So the ones that can't take an opinion perspective outside of their own and needed to be the end of the world are going to just have to live with that. We're not arguing with you guys anymore. There's too much going on. And we got I got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about today. I'm not going to make this all about Tank, but the fight is supposedly being worked on. Isak Pitbull Cruz. Devin Haney took his position on the fight. I thought what he said I could resonate with. It made sense to me. I thought he gave him a lot of flowers. At the same time, I hold him accountable. I think he talks about him being a great fighter. I mean, let's just let it play one more time. You know what I'm saying? Just to kind of get that last perspective and make sure that I'm not.
Gervonta Davis, I think that he's a really good fighter.
Boom, he's a really good fighter.
I think that he's an underachiever. You know, I think that he has so much talent. I think that his outside issues is stopping him from reaching his full potential, and him just not wanting to test himself against the best fighters in the world. There's a guy like Pitbull Cruz it's just a fight that no one asked for.
Period. I don't think there was nothing extreme about what he said. I thought he gave him his flowers. And keep in mind that Tank Davis being in these conversations speaks to who he is as a fighter, right? That's him being in the conversation of an underachiever means that he can do more. Him not fighting his contemporaries mean that he's in the conversations with the Devin Haney's, the Shakur Stevenson, all these great fighters. That gives him his flowers. But at the same exact time, hey, bro, there's nothing wrong with saying nobody asked for the Isak Pitbull Cruz fight. I think the fight is going to be a good fight because I think as far as the matchmaking stylistically, that is lined up to be a shootout. And who doesn't want to see that? It's going to be a good fight. But Devin's right. Nobody asked for Pitbull Cruz. And I don't see why that's not fair to say that. What's the issue?
Right.
It is what it is. Let's continue to move the needle. As we're moving on to the next topic here. Let's go into Shakur Stevenson a little bit here. Shakur Stevenson pops up on Joe Rogan. I don't know if you had a chance to see it. Shout out to Shakur Stevenson. Ever since his Teofimo win has been building up some momentum. He's been on a media campaign. Shakur Stevenson has gone ahead and phone calls and everything coming in. Shakur Stevenson has gone ahead and built himself a little bit of a brand now, right? He's embracing himself a little bit more, a lot more poised, a lot more articulate, a lot more patient as he's now trying to commercialize himself a little bit and cross over in some drama with the WBC a little bit. But more importantly, the victory over Teofimo Lopez, an acquisition of another Ring Magazine belt. He's now a 2-time Ring Magazine lineal champion, 3-division champion, I think 3 weight class division or 4? Four. So 126, 130, 135, 140, right? 4. 4 weight class champion. So a very accomplished guy, and everybody's asking what's next. Rumors have been circulating about Shakur Stevenson potentially being in the fight with Ryan Garcia, because Ryan Garcia showed some interest in that fight happening. We saw Raymond Morataya have a crazy performance against Andy Cruz, keeping his and retaining his IBF title, making himself the number 2 guy or the number 1 guy now that Shakur Stevenson is not in the division, right? Number 1 or number 2 guy. Either way, conversations are floating around with what he might be doing next. How do you feel about Shakur Stevenson and what makes sense for him next?
He's got some options outside of Ryan Garcia as well, but I like the Ryan fight to a degree. I like it at 140. I don't know if I like it anything over. I think Ryan rehydrates a lot. Will rehydrate crazy, and then be too much of a danger for Shakur. It doesn't mean that Shakur cannot win this fight. I will never take that away from him, but I think that Shakur has been doing everything right. Let it be known that I've seen him and Devin communicating a lot. This is behind the scenes stuff. And it seems that they're both moving professionally as possible and looking to achieve the biggest things in boxing. Shakur's side is he has a great guys around him. He has a great talent around him, and he seems to have found his place. I bet you right now he's kicking himself like, Reebok, why didn't you give me the deal now? Because this would blow up. We would have Shakur Stevenson gloves, shorts, shoes, whatever they got will be out there right now with Reebok's name on it, aka Sugar Shakur Stevenson, as they put on his trunks that day. But yeah, man, this says a lot, and Shakur is well deserving of everything that he's got. I don't even got much to say. Nothing negative here. Nothing to dive into that would be crazy. He's just moving the right way, man. He's on that locomotive, and it's just passing by all the stations because he's got everything going his way, man. Salute to Shakur Stevenson, man. You can hit the horns for that guy, bro, for real.
Shakur was on Joe Rogan and spoke about what his potential future is, and just obviously after you finish hearing the interview, you find out he's really in a great space. Nobody's tying him down, no promotional companies tying him down. He's obviously in favor of the money. As far as Turkey Al-Sheikh, Sella, and all of that, they're loving what they're seeing from him, and so he's got a lot of options on the table. Ryan Garcia, one of the biggest paydays out in boxing right now, is got his crosshairs on Shakur. Thinks that'll be a great fight. Has even agreed and spoken on potentially going down to 140 pounds to fight for Shakur Stevenson's lineal title. As the lineal title in the past 2 to 3 years, last 2 years specifically, right, has really regained a lot of momentum behind it. A lot of people are very focused on that Ring Magazine title. They're loving it. Right here, you'll see that Shakur Stevenson spoke on Joe Rogan, quote, I may go back to 135 pounds to get that ring belt, right? This on the back end of him being stripped of a WBC title, not even batting an eyelash, being stripped of the title, as Shakur has been one of those fighters who's communicated how, the belts don't even make a difference. But this Ring Magazine belt in particular, he says, I like the ring belt, and I've always liked it. Right. He says, for me to have a ring belt at 130, then I got a ring belt right now, 140 pounds, but I never had a ring belt at 135. And it's like, should I just go get that ring belt just to have it? Yeah. I mean, clearly a lot of fighters, and, this will segue into the next conversation we're going to have as well. And we're going to go into the Opetaia situation. Oh, yeah. That's how we're going to really probably end up closing out the show a little bit, diving a little deeper into that. We're going to go into the actual IBF law, the rule, the 5.H rule, and what that translated into. And even right now, where the IBF stands with Opetaia. But that being said, with Shakur Stevenson valuing that Ring Magazine belt, talking about going back to 135, if he was going to get that 135 pound Ring Magazine title, the fighter I think is going to be Raymond Morataya. That will be the fight to be made. What do you think of that potential fight? And what do you think about Shakur entertaining going down to 135 to making that fight happen?
Hey, man, listen, I'm all for it. I think that's a great fight. Morataya has been calling for this fight for such a long time. And it's actually, even on the other end of the spectrum, Bob Arum has never even seen an opportunity for Morataya even to take this fight because he didn't believe that Morataya could beat Shakur, so they kept him away from each other. But I think right now the time is now. It's money on both sides. It's a lot of I'm trying to use the right words here. It's a lot to be gained from this opportunity with Shakur and Morataya. It speaks to a lot. Not only does it help help the business. But like you said, it gives him an opportunity for the lineal championship. Right now, that belt is being thrown out there left and right, and from there to there. We're just happy to hear that belt is being signified as the number one challenge to own. And Shakur going down there to start with Raymond Muratalla is a great fight. We already know Ray is a big guy coming into these fights, and he made weight. He looked good in that last fight with Andy Cruz, even though I kind of seen it go a different way, but he looked good in the fight. I could see why he won, but this is going to be a good start for Shakur to campaign at 135 and do it all over again and possibly move back up to reclaim his title at 140 to make things happen. He's got big fights at 135 with these guys there. Now, here's the one thing I do have a problem with. The division is young, and because it's young, you got new stars there. While that's happening, I think, him being at 140 is a great place to be. So him going down to just reclaim, just to get in the conversation for a ring title doesn't move me much, because I think he'll be taking candy from a baby, say the least. But
well, look, Raymond Muratalla has gained a lot of respect in that fight for me, in particular with the Andy Cruz fight, because Andy Cruz is a elite boxer, and Shakur Stevenson is probably the most elite boxer in boxing right now, or at least in the top 3 on the pound for pound list right now, right, as far as elite boxing is concerned. So that performance he had with Andy Cruz puts that fight with Shakur Stevenson in better perspective. I think that fight, there's an opportunity for that fight to be very competitive. Muratalla showed patience, poise, ring IQ, you know what I'm saying, his ability to deal with a very slick black fighter like Andy Cruz.
Yeah,
a very slick black fighter puts perspective on that fight. Now, the Ring Magazine belt, like I said, seems to be a belt it seems to be one of the last of the Mohicans. Seems to be the belt that really represents his legacy of the sport, according to the fighters, right? Who carried the ring belt. Teofimo Lopez campaigned for years that the ring belts were the belts that mattered. He showboated those belts over the WBO title everywhere he went. Always had 2 of those Ring Magazine belts everywhere he went. A lot of fighters have celebrated that belt, and clearly Shakur Stevenson is showing you he's not different. He said he's always admired the ring belts. So I think he goes down there in that division not to fight Abdullah Mason, not to fight Lamont Roach for a WBC title, not to do all those things. He goes down there to fight for that Ring Magazine belt, and maybe he defends it against a Lamont Roach if the money makes sense. Maybe he does that, give Lamont Roach an opportunity to get some money, right, and get some legacy under his, if he does what he needs to do under his belt, if he does what he needs to do against Williams Opetaia. But I don't think that negates any of the 140-pound conversation. I think Shakur is right there in the 140-pound conversation.
Right.
I think he's right there for a Gary Antoine Russell fight, right there for a Dalton Smith fight. You know what I mean? I think he's right there for any big opportunity, Richardson Hitchens, if he happens to be in the conversation, or whatever else is going on at 140 pounds. I just think that at the end of the day, he's a free-spirited fighter right now, where he understands that the world is his oyster, and he has a lot of options and opportunities on the table, and he's going to take them as he sees fit, as they come across the table, and he's going to probably take it based on what makes the most money at the time.
I agree. And what I would love to say is that we have to just keep in mind all the things that Shakur has said, right? He wanted to go back to 135 anyway. So, I mean, if that suits all his needs and his pursuit, he can always go back up to 140, and he looked great at 140 fighting. I think he's trouble for everybody. I think the biggest fight, and everybody keeps knocking me for this, is the Dalton Smith fight. Everybody thinks I'm crazy. I think that's the biggest money fight he can grab right now.
Amazingly enough, Shakur Stevenson was on like a live or Twitter or something like that, and he put the Dalton Smith fight as the last fight he'd want to do, which I thought, okay, but he's, I don't know what that meant. The way he was speaking, it felt like he was making Dalton Smith the least dangerous opponent for him, right? It looked like he put Gary Antoine Russell, I think, at like number 2. He put Ryan Garcia as a number 1 fight he wanted to make, and he ended it with the Dalton Smith fight. And I don't know if it's a WBC thing or you know what I'm saying, if that's part of it at all.
Right.
But at the end of the day, willingness to do all the fights. I want to bring this up real quick as well. So you let me know what you think about this real quick as well here. Bear with me. Boom. You know what I mean? Let's share this real quick here. And I just want the opinion on this right here. Everybody's always going to continue to talk about the legacy of this fight and what this fight was going to mean for the sport. And it doesn't seem like the fight is going to happen. I don't hear Tank Davis mentioning Shakur Stevenson, but Shakur has always spoken on it. And here's Shakur once again, just speaking to the elephant in the room. I believe this one right here was also a quote from the Joe Rogan show. So this was very recent. He says, I don't need nobody. If he feels as though I need him, then it's like, whatever. I'm not in need of that fight. I would love for that fight to happen. So Shakur just basically stating and doubling down on what you said earlier, as far as this is why you're seeing these fighters take this position. If Gervonta Tank Davis is not interested in the fight, neither is Shakur Stevenson. But do you feel like this fight is still a fight that low-key is a fight that you feel like should happen and needs to happen and that you would like to still see happen?
It's Manny Pacquiao. People gonna hate me for saying it's Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather. Yes, it needs to happen. This is Bud Crawford, Earl Spence. This needs to happen. Matter of fact, I'm not even gonna say Earl Spence. This is Bud Crawford, Keith Thurman. This is the fight that needs to happen. Earl Spence, Keith Thurman. This is the fight that's going. It may never happen, right? But it needs to happen. For the history of the sport, it needs to happen. This is a big fight. We already missed Tank and Devin, right, which was another big opportunity for a big fight at the division. Devin there moved on. He's already 2 weight classes away from him, even though Tank's fighting at 140. And now in this one. But the big fight is Tank and Shakur. It is. And Shakur knows it. Tank knows it. But the opportunity is just like, why am I going to keep – Shakur's doing the right thing. Why am I going to keep playing these games and waiting and begging and asking? And how many times do I got to ask? Like, do I got to ask nicely? Do I got to be mean? Do I got to call Al? Like, what do I have to do? You know what? How about this? I'm going to go fight the guy that was at your division, that was a champion, that had 3 belts. I'm going to go fight him. He was a lineal champion. I'm going to beat him. You know what? Let's see what you say then. I'm going to beat the number 1 guy in the division, in every sanctioned body, and we're going to see what you say then. Nothing. So the whole point is there's never been a point of anybody retaliating on that side of the street besides what has he done? What do you mean what has he done? He has done more than you in a short period of time at your own division that you've been at 2 years before him than anyone. I could say that than you have, to say the least. And it's a shame, bro. It really is. So Shakur has picked up his luggage. He moved out the crib. You know what I mean? Got himself a bigger crib. Now he's in his own space and he's doing his thing. He don't really need you, bro. He don't need you as a roommate anymore, bro. You ain't got to split bills with him no more. He's got his own crib now. So it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the fight is a fight that's always going to be in demand. I would love to see the fight. I'm not as optimistic as I used to be about the fight, but I do think Tank is moving closer to Shakur, which is always a good thing. I like that Tank is going up to 140 pounds, fighting Isak Pitbull Cruz for that fact. The fact that at least he's going up. All his fights are going to be bigger than the Pitbull Cruz fight, I like to believe. I think, him fighting, rematching Lamont Roach, maybe Lamont might come up to 140 again and fight a Tank Davis. And at the same exact time, a Gary Antoine Russell fight and a Shakur Stevenson fight, right? Any of the champions at 140 could be in the crosshairs of a potential Gervonta Tank Davis fight. It would be great to see him fight unified, become a unified champion. Would also be a great thing to see him do. So I'm still optimistic of the possibilities of the fight. It is a fight I think the sport would benefit from, and I think it's a legitimate argument to say that it's a fight the sport needs, right? But we'll see what ends up happening, right? I thought it was something worth talking about because once again they seem to be in the same division. Shakur is a champion in that division. He's getting ready to fight Isak Pitbull Cruz and pick up an interim WBC title that puts him in the crosshairs of a Dalton Smith big fight in the UK, or potentially get a title shot. He can even leverage that, I'm sure, with his likeness to get into a title shot with a Gary Antoine Russell, and obviously a fight with Shakur Stevenson. So we'll see how that ends up turning out, right? So let's go ahead 1 second here and let's segue into some sanction and body conversations here as Jai Opetaia comes off of a dominating victory this weekend. Did you get a chance to catch that card by any chance? What you think of the card?
You want to talk about the card or just the fight? Because the fight itself is just
well, talk about it all. Talk about the experience. What you think?
Man, first of all, that first fight was just diabolical, bro. That Was it?
You know what? I missed a lot of the prelim fights,
Was it
unfortunately.
Ramirez? I think I'm gonna say it's Ramirez or something. The Dominican kid versus the Mexican kid, bro. It was just crazy, to say the least. And I had to watch it on replay because I told you what happened when I called you, where I was going to be going, what I was going to be doing, and how it may work out or may not work out. So it was so funny. But yeah, it obviously didn't work out because I had Z's coming out my head, bro. I was knocked out, but I did catch the whole thing. You know, went back to Paramount, watched the whole thing, and it was good, man. I'm just saying, it was a lot of good fights on the card. But if you really want to dive into that sanctioning thing, I don't know if you want to begin with that because we had to start with the press.
No. I mean, we'll take it step by step. So overall, as far as the card is concerned, you felt it was lackluster. You didn't think it was that good, or you thought?
No, I just think it was a lot of people that people don't know. You know what I mean? Us as fans, like, we don't know fighters. It kind of detracts us towards another direction.
Are you still watching Zuffa boxing, looking for fighters that you know?
No. That's not what I mean. Listen to me.
Okay.
I'm saying as a fan base. That's what I'm saying. I said
I'm talking about for you.
For me, I liked it. I was rocking with
it. You, right? I'm asking you how you felt about it.
But your question was, do I think? And I was building. Okay, yeah. As far as me, I love the fights, bro. It was a few stoppages. A great. Look like mismatches though, bro. Some of these guys are just really good. They just don't belong in the ring. Well,
I think on paper, a lot of these fights were good matches,
right?
And that's why the Zuffa system is important, right? Or what this idea of the best fighting the best, because on paper, we know how matchmaking can be very deceiving on people's resumes. How people's resumes that are always being brought up can be very deceiving. If you looked at the Teofimo Shakur Stevenson situation, there was an argument there to say that Teofimo fought the better competition, had the better resume. He fought the Lomachenko. He fought the Josh Taylor. He fought, these fights on Arnold Barboza. He was the champion. He was the lineal champion in his division. He was all of this. He was the more experienced fighter, but there was such a huge disparity in IQ and ability once those two fighters got in the ring with each other. Even though Shakur Stevenson was coming up from 135 and didn't have the big signature fights on his resume like a Teofimo Lopez, we saw how that manufactured, good timing, good matchmaking resume could be exposed on the biggest stage in the biggest fight. We saw the same thing happen a little bit between Terrence and Errol, right? There's fights that we can, Canelo and Terrence, you know what I'm saying? Where it's like, damn, even though Terrence Crawford's resume wasn't like Canelo's resume, there was a big disparity in the competitive nature of the fight. So yeah, there were fights on that card where where it was like, damn, bro, I didn't know that guy was that much better than that guy.
Right.
And that's what ends up happening. So, any promotional company can only put their best foot forward when it comes to matchmaking, right? The reality is it's up to the fighters to deliver. You know what I'm saying, on the opportunity that they've given. So when we see a fight just looking lopsided, it's like, is there a superstar in the conversation, in the Zuffa boxing conversation that was getting promoted? Like, we want this guy to be big. No, those guys each had an equal opportunity on a ground level of something brand new to make a name for themselves. You know what I'm saying? And be looked at and separate themselves from their peers. I thought the card was great. I think the cards continue to deliver up and coming prospect level fighters.
That's where I was going to go with it.
Great fights, and I think we get an opportunity to grow with these fighters. I think that's the opportunity we have. I go into these events embracing the idea that I don't know these fighters. I literally go into it excited. That's part of my excitement, because I know I'm about to be introduced to a new class, a new generation of fighters that I do not know. And that brings excitement to me. So I'm actually looking forward to it. And that being said, perspective going into it, I thought the card was a great card. Right. That's what I thought it was. You know what I mean?
Right. No, it was. Like I said, I watched I think, let me see. I did Mr. Salas fight. Trying to think who I didn't see. I see the Jacob Ramos fight, the Perez fight. I see the Eric Rosado. That's the fight that was the one that just got my attention, bro. The featherweight fight, the first fight. And the reason why I got so much of my attention is because you kind of seen like Emilio Alvarado, that's his name. You didn't see him apply pressure at first, and you thought, because the last guy, Eric Rosario, was on one of the first card. He looked good on the first card. They had a lot of hopes for this guy, bro. And he got in there and got smoked. No, he got caught with that left. like, yo, got up, like, yeah, I'm good.
Welcome to the big leagues, right?
Got up, like, yo, what? This dude didn't just do what I think he did he? Yes. He just kept putting it on him after that, bro. And it just was bad, bro. And I just was like, yo, this is what boxing needs. We need fights like this. We need guys. And this is a featherweight division, so a lot of people don't follow those smaller fighters, right? But I'm just like, yo, this is what we need, though. This is what fighters are made of. This is how you find the guys that are like the what do you call it? The needle in a haystack. This is how you find it, bro. This is where you find the worthy fighters that are elite. Almost that's why I always reference USA boxing and MSG boxing. You grew up over here. You knew what MSG was. You seen that every Saturday night. You know what I mean? They had those fights on late, going into the morning at 2:00 in the morning. You sitting up watching these fights, the Budweiser ring, and you watching it, right? You like, yo, who is this guy? Yo, this guy is crazy, but he'll never beat this guy. And you would just say that. But then they get in the ring, and eventually that guy builds his resume up, Michael Moore, to say the least, and becomes champion, man. So it brings something, you know what I mean? And that's what this is doing. This is showing me a lot. The Rubio fight was a great fight. Unfortunately, it is what it is. I'm trying to think who else was a great bang. The second fight was good too. Miguel Serrano and Ucho, right? I remember watching that fight. That fight started off bad because he busted dude's head open, like up here. I don't know if it was a clash of heads, but he was like leaking from like his head right here under his hair. And dude looked like he was lost at first. And he just came back. He stepped on the gas and made a good comeback. These are just, like I said, these are just good competitive fights. But you just have some that are just lopsided, bro. And as you can see in the main card, you had 2 TKOs, bro, and there's a reason for that. It's just sometimes you just don't belong, and that's what it is, Clay.
Yeah. I thought it delivered. You know what I'm saying? I thought it delivered and did what it did. But I mean, obviously the star of the show. You know what I'm saying? The headliner was the one that everybody was watching. We know the drama that came up behind it. But hold on one second. I actually kind of messed up here. I want to pull this up right here. Let's see here. Is this it?
And it got me too, by the way, because I definitely thought that was Jared Anderson when I was watching it. It wasn't Jared.
Oh, you talking about Jarday?
Yeah, I was like, yo, Jared Anderson fight?
Right.
He is still undefeated. He is still Ring Magazine Cruiserweight World Champion. And now, the inaugural Zuffa Boxing Cruiserweight Champion of the World, Joe Opetaia!
So Jai Opetaia, the star of the show that night, obviously. You see him there wearing that UFC. I mean, Zuffa. That Zuffa cruiserweight title, the first one that we've seen. Interesting design. I think a lot of people are pushing back on the design of the belt. It is what it is. Am I a big fan of the belt? I think the belt's cool. I think it's straight, but I do get it though. I do think that it does push. You see the UFC all over it, and maybe there's a little bit of WWE energy in there combined a little bit as well. But it's Dana White's style. It's the brand. It's what you can see who's pushing the event. Obviously, who's the guy who owns the event, which is Dana White. But that being said, the biggest topic on that victory, which was like an umbrella shade over the victory, was the IBF's position going into that fight, right? And how the IBF took issue with the way their belt was being promoted and how it was being pushed. And they felt like the Zuffa belt, you know, having it next to the Zuffa belt was something they weren't interested in doing. So not only did they not sanction the fight, but more importantly, they threatened to at this point. I'm going to say threatened because from what I understand, it's not official yet. Jai Opetaia hasn't officially been stripped yet. So what ends up happening that night? Why was that IBF situation becoming a big deal? There was conversations there that people thought that the IBF was okay. It was being promoted. The belt was on the table. The belt was on his shoulder. The belt was being told even in the promotion that it'd be on there, that the IBF title would be on the line, but it is what it is. And I'm not happening. I want to also pull this up here right quick and just get Mike Coppinger, who kind of explained from his understanding what ended up happening that night.
Time now to check in with our insider, Mike Coppinger. Mike, great to see you as always. And I don't know if you've heard, but there's been some talk about belts this week in boxing. Can you please unpack this for us?
Yeah, thanks, Molly. We're here right now in Jai Opetaia's locker room. He's going to be arriving here in just a few short hours for his big fight tonight against Brandon Glanson. And of course, Jai, he had another weigh-in this morning. He weighed just over 210 pounds to comply with the IBF rules. I can't wait.
Top, let me ask you this. What's changed for Jai from Thursday until now, Sunday fight day?
Right. So the IBF on Thursday, Molly, sanctioned this fight as an official cruiserweight title fight. One day later, they pulled that sanctioning, saying that they didn't want the title alongside the Zuffa title. But I saw an email that really contradicted that and said that they felt disrespected and embarrassed by the way the title was presented at the press conference. But either way, we're going to have the Ring Magazine Championship and the first ever Zuffa Championship online tonight. Jai Opetaia and Brandon Glanson.
Crazy work.
So basically, what Mike Coppinger said, and what seems to be the consensus is that this fight was sanctioned at one point in time. Sanctioning fees were paid, money was given up, all those type of things, right? But ultimately, you know, when it was all said and done, they ended up pulling back on the situation. They stated that they didn't like the way the belt was being represented, things of that nature. I mean, thus far, do you have any different understandings? Is there some parts that I'm missing so far, or like that?
No, it's exactly what it is. There's nothing you're missing. Just seems like there was some, like, just weird energy. I'm gonna leave it there.
Right. Let me make this a little bit bigger here. So right here is on the IBF website is their position on the whole entire conversation. Right, let me make it a little smaller. Maybe it's a little too big. Right. Here's the IBF's position on here. And the IBF says the International Boxing Federation, we know them as IBF, has withdrawn sanction of the optional defense of the IBF cruiserweight title between Jai Opetaia, number 15, and number 15 ranked contender Brandon Glanson, scheduled for March 8th, 2026. I don't know if that number 15 is accurate. I feel like he was 10, but it is what it is. The initial sanction followed discussions that began on February 11th when IBF President Darrell Peoples, after learning about the contents on social media, reminded Opetaia's representatives of IBF Rule 5, governing champions and unification bouts. After continued dialogue on March 3rd, Opetaia's team confirmed the fight would not be a unification and that any belt awarded by Zuffa would be characterized as a trophy or a token of recognition. The IBF has not had any discussions regarding this bout with any direct representative from Zuffa Boxing. However, the organization received assurances from Opetaia's representatives that it would be the case. The IBF approved the bout under these conditions, as the bout would no longer conflict with IBF Rule 5.E.2, which states in part, for the purpose of unification titles, the preeminent champions of the World Boxing Association, WBA, the World Boxing Council, WBC, the World Boxing Organization, WBO, may be designated as elite contenders and may be permitted to fight for a unified title. Now, the press conference held at the MGM Grand Las Vegas, Nevada today made it clear that Zuffa's world cruiserweight title would be contested on March 8th. The IBF reserved the right to sanction title bouts alongside other sanctioning bodies that comply with the same mandated regulations followed by the organization. So with sanction withdrawn, the Opetaia versus Glanson bout is now unsanctioned contest. IBF Rule 5.H states in part, an unsanctioned contest is a fight which the IBF has not formally approved for sanctioning or where sanctioning has been formally withdrawn. If a champion participates in an unsanctioned contest within his prescribed weight limit, the title will be declared vacant, whether the champion wins or loses the bout. So I think very important here to take into consideration is there's some important words in here, right? Number one is the sanctioned belt. And the idea behind or the understanding of what the Zuffa boxing belt represents. From my understanding, and you let me know if you know different, there is conversations about it, so whether or not this belt is a sanctioned belt, because it's really not sanctioned, being that they seem to be waiting on things with the Ali Act to be rolled out, and that this fight is not actually, that Zuffa belt is not a sanctioned belt. So that being said, I'm kind of confused a little bit as far as the position the IBF is taking on the idea of that fight being a unification fight, that the IBF would be unified with the Zuffa belt. Does that make sense to you? Is that kind of like what you're hearing?
Literally, that's what it sounds like they're trying to say to get out of it. But they clearly said that they were in the understanding that it was not a unification. It literally says that in the first part of the conversation. So for them to double back and use that as an excuse because they had it placed on the table with their belt, that was the reasoning, right? It's just utterly ridiculous. It just shows that they weren't happy. Maybe the money being exchanged or whatever the case was just, it is what it is. But it was just it's just heartfelt, man. And I want to dive deeper into that when you're ready to turn the page on it, because I didn't like what Joe Opetaia, his replies were very heartening, just, you know what I mean, and disrespected by the IBF. So yeah, everything you just said, 1,000%, just disrespectful, bro. It's just, I don't get it. There's no angle on this. At least Mauricio Suleiman, you can see the clear lies. They gave you a statement here, a rule here, and
Well, I think the rules they're using, and obviously Dana White has spoken on this as well, and we can pull that up as well as far as his positioning on that as well. But from his positioning, you know, and me too. My thing is, if you've accepted money, then there's an understanding that this fight is sanctioned. The Zuffa belt is gonna be there. It's a Zuffa event. It's been promoted across the whole entire boxing space that this was going to be for the first Zuffa inaugural belt. You knew that. I find it hard to believe that the IBF was in the dark about the intentions of Zuffa and the existence of that Zuffa belt, and that they were going to be fighting for it. Now, they seem to have no problems flying into town, accepting per diem, accepting a large sanctioning fee, which I heard is about $75,000. Right? So I'm just a little bit confused as far as what their position is. A shout out to Sam from Jersey again, supporting the channel. I appreciate you, man, with the love. Shout out for the color in the chat, man, and everybody else who's been showing color tonight in the chat as well, or today in the chat. Says, I hope Zuffa takes over boxing because it's sad now the sanctioning bodies are because it's sad how the sanctioning bodies are acting because the fighters want more. Yeah, I think that. And I think that's a legitimate argument that's being made right now, because the freedom and the choice and how they chose to wield it in a fight that Joe Opetaia prepared for, physically dialed in for, you paid sanctioning fees, so you thought all the boxes were checked, and you pull the sanctioning from the fight in the final hour before the fight happens and put on the table that you're going to strip him because you deemed it disrespectful, according to an email, with how the title was being shown and represented, which is what Mike Coppinger was saying, right? But let's talk about a little bit. Let's go on the angle a little bit here on the manager, on Joe Opetaia's manager, who also spoke on this a little bit here. Hold on one second here. Let's go over to him a little bit. Let's see what his position is a little bit on this situation, just so we can get a little bit hands-on.
Ben Collins with Fight Hype. I'm here with Nick Francis. Nick, how's it going today?
Yeah, it's good, mate.
Good. Could you give us a quick update on what happened with the IBF situation? From everything we understand, all the sanctioning rules were followed. He did both the weigh-ins. We saw the video of him weighing in again this morning. The fees were paid in advance. Kind of give us your take on it.
You know, the ring was sitting right in front of Jai at the press. My take is that we came over here 8 weeks ago under the impression that we're going to be fighting. Jai will be fighting and defending his IBF title, Ring Magazine. At the time, we didn't know about the Zuffa title. That was sort of halfway through. Dana announced it, which obviously Jai was really proud about and excited to fight for the Zuffa title, especially being the very first Zuffa title in history, which means a lot for Jai. Jai's always been that guy that's made history along the way. Like, he was the first Australian to win a gold as an amateur, 16-year-old Olympian, one of the first Australian to go to Riyadh season. Like, it's just things he's always done, and the first major sign of the Zuffa. So nothing's new to us, and we're used to diversity. But we expected to fight for all three titles. As far as I'm aware, because Zuffa and their partners have been working on it with the IBF, They've been in close contact with Daryl Peoples from the IBF, and they've made it strict guidelines, Daryl and the IBF, on Zuffa. Things like where the belt is to be positioned during the presser, which the belt was directly in front of Jai, in view of Jai at all times. All fees had to be paid up front by deadline. They're all paid the day of the presser. They were paid by 10 o'clock that morning of the presser. The supervisors are in Vegas. They're in the team hotel. They received their per diem. They received their payments, as far as I'm aware. And mate, they jumped on a plane yesterday, went back home. So I just don't understand why. Everything seemed to be going pretty smoothly up till probably an hour after the presser. So I'm not sure whether there's been pressure from some outside force to the IBF. And I'll be completely honest, like, mate, Daryl's a human, and I understand the pressure that he's under. But at the end of the day, we need to put our big boys' pants on and, mate, do the right thing by our fighters. You know, like, these guys work their asses off for these titles. Like, we know, the whole world knows how hard Jai fought when he won that title in 2022 against Ramirez. Like, he worked his ass, double broken jaw. He broke one side in the third round, the other side in the ninth round. He went 3 rounds with his jaw swinging against one of the best pound for pound heavyweight.
All right, so I'm going to pull it down at this point. I mean, more importantly, his position on this is basically like they told us what needed to be done. They gave us strict guidelines, is what he said, on what needed to be done, and we checked all the boxes. We were supposed to pay certain fees about a certain time. We were supposed to have down to how the belts were supposed to be represented, where they were supposed to be put. The belt was always right there on the front of Jai Opetaia during the pressers. Anytime he was on camera, where he was at the weigh-ins, he had the belt on his shoulder. From their understanding, everything was done according to the rules of what they were told they needed to get done. So once again, confusion. But I think the most important part of what I saw him say in that video was towards right the end where I stopped it at, which was putting the big boy pants on. That this situation seemed to be very immature, that you have to factor in the fighter's well-being to say that the sacrifice, the blood, sweat, and tears put into fighting for that belt, the broken jaw in 2 different spots, him missing his grandmother's funeral, all those different situations, that the IBF and the sanctioning bodies would take personal indifference with Zuffa boxing and Zuffa trying to roll out their own belt and what they're trying to have happen, and just that easily take away a title from a champion. And I've gone on record to say this, right, Ray? Like, these champions are losing their titles too easily outside of combat
competition. Yeah,
right. Like, it should be the last resort for a sanctioning body to take away the title from a champion. The champion should lose his title inside of the ring, or if he's not following the guidelines of fighting his mandatory, he could lose it there, or he vacates and moves to another weight division potentially. But the idea that the political part of the sport would overstand the morality of what a champion is seems to me to compromise the integrity of what the sanctioning bodies are supposed to be here for, which is always on a search to crown the best. And now it seems as if the water's been diluted heavy ever since Zuffa Boxing has entered the space and put their name into the hat. And before you answer or speak on that, let me go ahead and acknowledge Warrior Class. Shout out to Warrior Class putting the $5 in the building. Says, will Zuffa bring back HBO Boxing After Dark, Showtime Boxing, Friday night fights like the good old days, and leave the sanctioning bodies in the dust? I don't think the sanctioning bodies will ever truly be left in the dust. I think there's just too much legacy there. I'm going to tell you like this, though. There's an argument to be made that the sanctioning bodies aren't doing themselves any favors by being in the crosshairs of all these conversations. And it's back to back to back, whether it's Mauricio Suleiman and how he's carrying it. The way Mauricio Suleiman has been moving with the WBC in the past 2 to 3 years is absolutely, I'm not going to even hold my words back. It's disgusting. Why would a fighter in real time take that belt seriously? Shout out to Shushu Carrington. Shout out to those young fighters who are looking to upgrade their pay, looking to still handle that legacy, trying to have that belt because they saw Muhammad Ali maybe have that belt. They saw Sugar Ray Leonard maybe have that belt, and they want to do that. But there's an argument out here to say that as these things are moving forward and as the sanctioning bodies are becoming a little bit tyrannical, they're becoming dictators a little bit, and they're showing that they're free to do whatever they want to do. The lawless, the Wild Wild West, quote unquote, aspect of this game, I think, is not looking good on the sanctioning bodies. I think that it's not looking good. Now, as far as Showtime, HBO, Friday Night Fights, and all those things that you're talking about, Warrior Class, listen, Paramount, this is a conversation about Paramount a little bit, right? And their ability to facilitate that. Now, Paramount is in a very close deal, looking like it's coming close to an ending, where they're going to be buying Warner Brothers, who owns HBO, who owns a lot of these networks. Yep. Paramount may be in the next month, in the next few weeks or so, be the biggest network in the game, period. And what do you think that's going to put Zuffa Boxing, who's on a 5-year, $500 million Paramount deal, the opportunities, the eyes that are going to be on boxing because of Zuffa? Because and we gotta speak clearly here. Networks are not in business with your favorite promotional companies. Golden Boy does not have a network deal. Top Rank does not have a network deal. Matchroom is the closest one to having a network deal with their relationship with the Zone, but once again, they don't either. Zuffa is not only doing a network deal with Paramount, but they also have deals with Sky Sports that they're working with in the UK. They're expanding into the Australia space. They according to Dana White, 18 different countries have already secured deals, documented and penned out deals with Zuffa Boxing. So they have access to an opportunity to one of the biggest key intangibles in a young boxer, especially's career, which is, I have a platform that eyes can see you fight. So I think what Warrior Class is talking about right now is a legitimate possibility. I'm not too sure about, leaving them in the dust. I think is also a fair statement, because leaving them in the dust as far as what they can offer fighters in comparison to what these other platforms can, I think the conversation is almost dead in the water. Dana White clearly has a huge opportunity for any fighter who's looking to grow their brand.
Right.
Go ahead and speak on it, Ray.
No, I just want to ask you, I don't know if you remember the Andrew Tate fight on the Misfits network or bout. The IBF sanctioned that fight, bro. Like, they knew what they were doing. The Misfits has their own title. Why wasn't it a problem then? You know why it wasn't a problem then? Because you have these sanctioning bodies that decided that they wanted to do something because they know they're being outshined and overlooked because of the event, because of the name on the show. Bro, it's ridiculous that we would have such like when IBO sanctions a fight, you don't see the IBF or the WBC or the WBA getting out of line with it, right? Who cares? When what was the other one? I think it's another IBA. The IBA sanctions a fight. You don't see them guys getting out of line with it. It is what it is. They just keep moving. This is another portion of promoters getting involved, sanctioning bodies getting involved, and trying to hold down what they have as hometown boxing, right? The real thing, the putting our wall up. We don't want you guys coming over here. You're damaging goods. We're going to keep you outside. But this guy that you had that was not damaging goods, that was your fighter, just went there. Matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, didn't is Usyk signed yet over there?
No, Usyk's not signed. Dana White had a great press conference at the end, and Dana White spoke, and I'm not going to even play the clip because we don't got that much time left. It's about time to wrap it up. But Dana White did speak on, because somebody asked him about the Usyk, about Shakur Stevenson, about the biggest stars in the game. And I think Dana said it pretty much clear. And I think one thing about Dana White, man, he's not into the antics. And that's what these promoters need to get in line and understand. They need to get their head out their asses and put together the biggest fights. Oscar De La Hoya choosing to stand where he's standing right now when it comes to Virgil Ortiz, Jerome Boots, and his shit is diabolical. It's not helping. It's crazy that you'd be in the way of this fight happening, that you should have automatically reached out to Virgil Ortiz's team and say, bro, I'm making the fight. or got him involved to the point to where there shouldn't be no confusion. The idea that this fight almost walked off the table from Virgil Ortiz's point of view is unforgivable, and that's why he wants to get away. The fact that you would even play, if you're going to play, fine, but when it's all said and done, once Eddie Hearn is reaching out, once certain situations is happening to where they're like, we're about to walk away. So let us know what you're doing, because Boots has a schedule that we got to keep on point with.
Correct.
And you're comfortable with like, well, the fight's not going to happen. No, fuck you respectfully. Who do you think you're playing with? This is my career. What do you mean the fight's just not going to happen? And you're going to grease your pockets, and I'm missing out on an opportunity that means the world to me. These arguments are starting to look crazy. The clapback Thursdays ain't enough. Like Dana said he can't believe how uncompetitive this is. He can't believe. He's in shock. He's like, dude, I'm gonna be real with you. We're gonna probably put on just as many Zuffa events as we're gonna put on UFC events, which means a lot of fighting, a lot of boxing, a lot of activity. And I think I saw somebody inside the chat talk about making these guys overactive and injury and all that stuff. Once again, not dialed into these fighters. You speak to any up-and-coming boxer, listen to what they're saying in their interviews. I want to be active 3 to 4 times a year, ideally, if not more. Abdullah Mason fought 5-6 times in 1 year.
7 times in 1 year, man.
To get to becoming a champion. That's what they want. That's what they're here to do, bro.
Right. No one said nothing about Mike Tyson fighting 21 fights in 1 year, or 19 fights, rather.
It blows me away. It blows me away that all of a sudden, in a space where most boxing fans were complaining about the sanctioning bodies and how they move with these fighters, a lot of fighters have been complaining about these sanctioning bodies for years. It blows me away that fans who benefit from a fighter fighting 4 or 5 times a year, that is not your business to regulate how active that guy is. You should be wanting to watch as much boxing as possible.
Right.
You're on the side of the promoters. You're on the side of the sanctioning bodies, the people who you've been complaining about for years. Why? Because you guys have Dana derangement syndrome, DDS. You guys, as soon as you hear Dana White's name, you guys become super toxic, and all of a sudden it becomes Dana's going to do this, do this. What is Dana going to do to boxing that hasn't been done to boxing already? Worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, right? And I'm not saying he's going to do that, but worst case scenario, what is Dana White really going to do to boxing that hasn't been done already with the space boxing is? I have more videos I can roll here, and I just don't got the time. We got Stephen A. Smith, who's standing on business, saying, I'm going to do whatever I can do to help. I'm going to do whatever I can do to help Dana move this forward, because he says, without a doubt, the elephant in the room is boxing has been in a crazy state for the past 10 plus years.
Yep.
The best cannot fight the best. These promoters aren't doing their jobs. The pay-per-view model is dead. You guys are rolling out another pay-per-view model right now with Sebastian Fundora and Keith Thurman. How does anybody on that undercard benefit of a card that they can't watch? How many people are going to put their foot down, draw a line in the sand, and not spend the $80? What service are you doing for the fighters on that undercard who are up and coming, who are not going to get seen, who are not going to get seen to fight? You're not going to put it for free next week. You're going to keep it right there on that pay-per-view platform, and they're going to have to pay that damn money to see that fight. How is boxing growing from that? I don't know where the critical thinking space, where the space of critical thinking is for the reality of what boxing needs versus what it has right now. But I don't understand, if anything, if you guys are that passionate about where you stand on this conversation, and why aren't you doubling down, putting the pressure, creating content, scrutinizing, criticizing, and holding these promoters accountable? I was just in a conversation last night with a good friend of mine. I was just on a conversation who's very close to the Russell camp, and we were arguing, right? And I said, I want to see Gary Antoine Russell more active. And I also want to see him on a platform where more people are seeing him. I think it's a disservice to Gary Antoine Russell that he's putting on these big fights against an Andy Hiroka, or putting on a big fight against Rayo Venezuela, getting a title, Fight of the Year candidate fights. And he's on a platform where pay-per-view is making it to where it's a limited amount of people who can see him. Mm-hmm. Gary Antoine Russell is somebody who could benefit greatly on the back of a Zuffa model. And I get
Right.
that's blasphemy to people. Like, I'm not sitting here campaigning and say Gary Antoine Russell should go over to Zuffa Boxing. What I am saying, though, is a Paramount television deal where millions of people are watching people fight boxing. Gary Antoine Russell is a kind of fighter where if 1 million people, 2 million, 3 million, 4 or 5 million people watch him fight, he's going to blow up. It's going to feel like overnight. People are going to demand to see him all the time. Period. If you want to argue that, I'm going to question your intelligence. You're just not there, IQ wise.
Right. Exactly.
Be mad at me, throw shots at me, point at me and say I'm called. You're not that smart. That's just an unfortunate, inconvenient truth for the life you live. Do better. 5 million people watching Gary Antoine Russell fight on a platform makes Gary Antoine Russell a star. 200,000 people seeing him does nothing for him. Compound that with the fact, the amount of damage, the risk, and everything he's putting on the line to be inside that ring. It's almost futile for him to be performing on a stage like that. So yeah, when Dana White says, I'm going to sign everybody, I'm not saying he's literally going to do it, but what he's saying is, I've got an opportunity here for any real fighter who wants to really be active and really wants to grow their brand. And then the ultimate prize being on the biggest stage, getting your biggest payday on a re-out season card, fighting for a Ring Magazine title. That's just a cherry on the top.
Sure
We're gonna see these things develop over the next months. And like Dana said, talk to me in a year, talk to me in 3 years. I don't care about all of the antics and all the, the silliness of it all. Yeah, Eddie Hearn wants to take, he's managing Tom Aspinall. Brother, I own 2 combat organizations. If you guys are going to try to make an argument that Eddie Hearn is my rival, please don't make a manager of one of my fighters who I have no problem just firing as that being a prerequisite to him being my rival. Are you smoking illegal drugs? What is going on in your brain to make that even a point of what are you talking about?
Yeah, shit was crazy.
The space needs to do better, because if there's a real passion to see boxing stay with these promoters or within the space that it is, boxing is doing bad, bro. Outside of Dana White and that Paramount deal, your favorite promotional companies are falling to the side like flies. They have a lifespan of a fly. What is a fly's lifespan? 3 to 5 days, something
3
like
days,
that.
right?
It is.
I'm gonna say 3 days. I think.
Those promotional companies have come and they're getting ready to go if they can't figure anything better to do than propaganda and whack-ass clapback Thursdays that don't mean nothing. Nigga, I'm about to cuss.
Yeah.
Brother, you are in court as your biggest fighter is doing everything in his power to get away from you. Ryan Garcia has made it part of his career downgrading and dismissing and trolling Devin Haney, and he's taking the other half of his career and he's been trolling you about getting out of business with you. Brother, you are not the mascot of this campaign to keep boxing here. You are a mascot for the reason why boxing is getting ready to leave here.
Yep.
Wake up. All the fake smiling. Errol Spence and Virgil Ortiz in Dallas Cowboy Stadium. Are you insane? Are you out of your mind? What are you talking about, brother? Are you disconnected? You need to go hit a rehab or something. Sober up, because it's going the other way on you. It don't look right because it ain't right. You can't keep selling this bullshit. You can't keep selling this snake oil. All you people inside the chat who have an issue with Dana White, with Turkey Al-Sheikh, let me tell you, if you really got an issue for it, you should be looking at the Oscar De La Hoyas and being like, brother, what in the F-bomb are you doing, bro?
You know what's so crazy?
You do not want this to happen, but you suck. Bro, you suck.
That's exactly what
You're killing us. PBC, brother, what is going on? Why aren't we seeing our fighters more active? Why are we not making the big fights? Do you see what's going on over there? We're sitting here fighting a good fight for you guys every day in these content creators chats, on Twitter. We keep fighting and talking about down with Dana White. He's the worst thing that happened to boxing. And you guys are doing this. Mauricio Suleiman, you don't want the Zuffa boxing belt to be a big deal, and you're stripping Shakur Stevenson, the number 3 pound-for-pound best fighter in the world. You're sitting here stripping Terrence Crawford because of some money. You're getting Alexander Usyk. You're giving a fighter who has one professional boxing fight in his whole entire career, and you're giving him an opportunity to become a champion. He fought in 2014. And you want us to sit here and continue to fight this fight for you? Can you help us? Can you help us out? Because you're killing us. I wish I had the R. Kelly video here. You're killing us.
Damn, bro.
You're killing us. I don't know what to make of it, but it's hard for the argument to have any legs under it when there's so much cooperation going on from the guys you guys want to represent. The cooperation seems to be like the fix is in to hand over the sport to the Dana Whites of the game. Robert Garcias, who are sitting there like, I can't, what do you want me to tell you, bro? My fighters are sitting in a gym, can't get no fights, can't get no money. I got to make up fights and put together events. I can only give them 1,000 here, 500, maybe 1,500 here. I can't do nothing. These guys are coming to me asking me for an opportunity, and I don't know what to tell them. So how can I turn away from this? Are you crazy? I'm not turning away from this. This is opportunity. Not to mention, not for nothing, these guys are golden. They're feeding my fighters, giving them gear, giving them rehab, recovery, giving them big paydays. They're not just talking shit. They're delivering. They're not just talking shit. They're actually doing. They're backing it up. I can show you the video right now where Opetaia's manager is on top of everything. These guys, unlike any other promotional company we ever been with or any sanctioning body that we work with, you want me to pull it up? It's right here. He says, unlike any of those guys, these guys actually do what they say they're going to do in the contract. So the argument can't continue to be tear down Dana White because that's not benefiting your guys' argument. You guys need to go back to the drawing board, and you need to hold the people accountable who are allowing this to happen, which is your favorite promoters. That's who's allowing this to happen. When your favorite promoter puts themselves in a position to where their business model is so horrible, no network wants to get in bed with them. It's not about the networks just spending money and throwing it away on them, and they need F that, bro. They need to do better and make their product profitable and make it make sense. Stop playing. It don't matter, to be honest with you, because one thing's for sure, two things for certain. What's in the dark's going to come out to light. But all these arguments, you want to focus your energy on me and say, oh, I'm bootlicking. I'm out here. Whatever, bro. It don't make no difference. For once in your life, do something that makes a difference, because all this is on deaf ears. I don't give a damn. I ain't got no real horse in the race, but I do want to watch some good boxing. And I watch some great boxing on Sunday. I don't give a damn what you think. Opetaia put on a clinic. I don't care. I enjoyed it. Called it. A lot of people enjoyed it too. Over 300 people inside the motherfucking chat watching me cover that. So I'm going to tell you, I'm not by myself. What you like to believe is not true. A lot of people are very interested. The niche space that wants it to be all about a fighter in a promotional company. Hey, bro, you'll age like milk, bro. Nothing lasts forever. All these fighters have a certain amount of time in their career to capitalize off the physical gifts God has given them. It is what it is. Eventually, they just won't be able to do it no more. Hopefully, they get paid. Hopefully, they all get rich like Gervonta Tank Davis. That's my prayer, as I hope all of them get rich.
Wow.
Like your favorite fighters. But I got a feeling with the way boxing is moving, that's more than likely not going to be the case. Shout out to Warrior Class in the building with the $10. Says, do you know the history or track record of Goosen training Mexican or black fighters? Seems like Goosen failed Barrios badly. I mean, we're moving off the topic a little bit, but no, I'm not all the way familiar. I don't know. Ray, are you super familiar with it? I know you got a history there, but I agree with you, man. He did fail Barrios. He failed Barrios horribly.
Oh, here you go, right here. Joe has been around since the 1980s, very mixed.
Yeah.
There you go. Hector Bermudez, shout out to the coach. He had said something earlier, like 3
salute, coach, by the way, salute, coach.
Yeah, like
he said, passion is good, but without respect,
that one.
Operation, the sport eats itself. Rivalry should raise the level of the sport, not diminish it. Boxing only thrives when the real fight is for its future. Man. Hold on a second, man. Listen.
The one he said before that is
listen.
The one he said before that is priceless.
And the reason I gave him the round of applause is because at the end of the day, what I'm reading here is it's about the fighters, bro. Whatever you do, don't go against the fighters. Whatever you do, don't let your issues bleed into the fighter's career.
Exactly.
Don't allow the shots that you throw to involve the casualties being the fighters. Whatever IBF has going on with Zuffa, and listen, I'm not saying Zuffa's perfect. I'm sure they're moving in the way they're moving. They're the ones who made the statement saying they're not recognizing sanctioning bodies and all that. But clearly, Dana White has shown and proven that he's willing to deal with the real-time data. And when he's talking to a fighter like Jai Opetaia or Shakur Stevenson, he understands, like he said in the press conference, I got to acknowledge these guys have dreams and aspirations and things that they wanted to do with their career, right? So he's clearly willing to change, and he's bend and do whatever he has to do because he's not going to sacrifice a fighter because he understands that is the commodity. So you know what? I wasn't going to do this. That wasn't my picture, but you want to unify. You want to become undisputed. I'm going to facilitate whatever I can do to make that happen. From Jai Opetaia's standpoint and his management, trust me, he's going, Dana did everything he could. It was those guys who decided to do what they did. They're the ones who didn't want to work. They're the ones who wanted to make it one side or the other. They're the ones who stripped me of the title. Not Dana, not Zuffa. Zuffa, yeah, you're right. Zuffa said they wasn't. But you know what? When we sat at the table, what they said? Okay, we will. What did y'all do? Yeah. What did you do? And that's why it's going to age the way it's going to age. And that's why Dana's smiling. That's why he's laughing his ass off and looking at you guys. Because you guys missed the point a long time ago. But it's evident now. It's one thing to be thought of a fool, but it's different to open your mouth to remove all doubt. It's one thing to be thought of being corrupt and thought of not giving a damn about fighters and all about your sanctioning fees and positioning your belt in front of making the most money. But it's another thing to blatantly show it. Right. Now, Jai Opetaia's got to sit back and be like, damn, bro.
All he gave up, bro, all his sacrifices just to get slapped in the face. It's like
he said, never once in his mind, never once did I think of it like this.
Right.
Never once did I consider that what?
Bro, that was a sad moment. Him confessing all that out there like that, and showing his loyalty to just get kicked in the back like that, thrown down the stairs, thrown in the dumpster, and told to drive away. Like that's crazy, bro.
HLD, I hear you, brother. I hear you, man. But at the end of the day,
doesn't matter, bro.
The one who took the title away was the IBF, bro.
Right.
If there's going to be an argument between Zuffa and the IBF, let the argument go down. Let it be an argument. Let them figure it out. Let them, hey, man, we didn't like this. We don't like that. Bop, bop, bop. But 48 hours before the fight, no, you don't give a damn about the fighter, bro. You should have never have done that. If the argument was going to be an argument, it should have been like a next time argument. You took money. Yeah. You took money. Period. Next time we doing this different. That's how that's got to work. Next time we doing this different. Not right now. Not Jai Opetaia, who's defended your title 7 damn times. Broken jaw in 2 different spots for that title. Missed his grandmother's funeral. Negro, please. Y'all know what it is. It's the ATP Combat Media Show. I got things to do. I got to move around, man. Shout out to everybody in the building. Shout out to the super chats. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel ASAP. Let's get this channel where it needs to be, man. I want to be up there. You may agree. You may disagree. But we're going to have fun doing it. Nothing but respect. Respect first is the foundation of everything. Always love first. Disagreements come and go. Respect should stay and remain there always. That's what allows a platform like this to exist. And I appreciate all you guys who choose to lead first with the respect, with the love. I really appreciate you guys. Until the next one, at this point,
we out.
We out.
way, they never believe me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball, I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say, I got them picking up the pieces. That to me, you really playing with your life, I'm about to come and run it all back. I'm the new era, about to snap back. You ain't fitting for it, cause you all cap like, hold up. I shoot my shot, wait, hold up. I'm really about to run this go up. You know it's all net when it go up. Ain't got no other plans, you don't need to understand. Ay, we on overtime, you don't need to understand. Ay, you just show